Today we are honored to welcome Meridee Hlokoff to the show today. I'm very excited about the show. She talks about so many things. She's certified in so many things herself, but what she really focuses on is addiction, right? Because so many people in society, we have these long-lasting addictions or things that are just zapping our life force energy. And I think awareness is the first step. But going beyond that and actually looking inward and healing ourselves to become the greatest version of ourselves, that's where it's all at. And I'm very happy to have her on the show today and share your story with us. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So I'm very interested to hear your story and how you got into the place of helping people and addictions and everything like that.
Okay. Well, let's get right to it then. Um, I basically was a smoker who just needed to try. I had tried everything and I just couldn't find a solution. I was on the pill. I had tried the patches. I had tried the gums. Like nothing worked. And the reason it didn't work is because it's nicotine replacement therapy and you're supposed to wean yourself off and all these things. And it doesn't work. It has 17% success rates. Like that's pretty low. And I had posted on my Facebook, somebody help me, I need to quit. Someone responded and said, hey, you should really try this laser therapy. And I was like, okay. At that point, I literally was desperate. I didn't care what I was trying. I would throw money at anything to be able to stop smoking. And I went and I tried this. It was 3-hour drive from my home for me to be able to go try it. And on my way home, I basically forgot to quit to smoke. Like it was the craziest thing in the world. But when we got after my treatment, we drove for 3 hours. And then right as we were pulling back into our hometown, the guy that was with me was like, are you going to quit smoking at some point? And I was like, wait, I haven't thought about it once. So how did we end up having this conversation? And he was like, seriously? And I was like, what? Like I was so confused. And he's like, you keep rolling down your window and then patting the center console and then just going back to driving. He's like, do you not remember me asking you to roll up the window? And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I actually do multiple times. He's like, because multiple times you rolled it down, patted the center console and then went back to driving. And I was like, well, this is interesting. He's like, why? And I was like, because I have not thought about smoking once. And he's like, there's no way. And I was like, for real. And I said, this is so strange too, because even as you said it to me, what came up for me was like, wait a second, what? Like I started to think of cigarettes and it like shut it off. It was just the craziest experience of my life. And so I had stayed quit for over 5 years. Then I had a barbecue in my backyard. Everybody was smoking. And just like a cocaine addict, one line is all they need to start. Well, one puff is all a smoker needs to start again. So I started smoking. I smoked for about 3 weeks and I was like, I know what I'm doing to go fix my problem. And I went down and the lady was basically in forced retirement and being forced to sell the company. So I said, I'm totally interested. And I I had my treatment. I struggled my butt off the second time. So I was able to experience both sides. So there's 85% of people who just have this magical experience that you forget to smoke. And then there's 15% who struggle. And when people come to me, I tell everybody, expect to struggle because there's no miracle cure for addiction. But if you get to feel that lovely way, then yay. So this way people are prepared that there's work that needs to be done when it comes to addiction. Now, in that, within the first 5 years of me owning the company, I spent about the first 5 years doing experiments on people using different lasers, different timing, different sequencing. First of all, I'm an overachiever. You know, when I was in school, I didn't have to try to get 85%. So in my businesses, 85% is never going to be good enough. So I just started to really like work through it, tried so many different things on so many different people. And then I started noticing a pattern with this one specific way I did things. And I ended up with 95% success rates at 1 year. So when you see cold laser therapy and they say we have 84 to 95% success rates, that's within the first treatment and the first 8 weeks. I don't like that because your endorphins are releasing for 8 weeks and then crashing for 8 weeks. So I wanted to see what I could do to change that. And my success rates are based on 1 year or longer, because if you can make it 1 year, we have completely changed things in your life and the chemistry and makeup of your brain. So, in some of the work that I've done and the research that I've done, one of the major things that stands out for me is the fact that in every addiction, no matter what substance you use, okay, that could be your phone, porn, gambling, cigarettes, heroin, cocaine, alcohol, methamphetamines, it doesn't matter what it is. Long-term use changes the physiological and chemical makeup of your brain, meaning it can never go back to what it was before, but it can find a new normal, if you want to call it that. And so with that in mind, I knew that I needed to do something different. I had a friend who reached out to me and said, my daughter is a heroin addict and I really need to get her some help. I'm coming to pick her up near your town and I'd like to get her in for a treatment. And I was like, sure. So I booked them an appointment. I think I had other appointments. So their appointment time was like 10 a.m. The kids came in and they weren't kids. They were in their 20s. They came in and they had used right before they came in because it was too late in the day and they were starting to get the detox symptoms. And so I had to wait for them to sober up enough to even have communication. They basically laid there on my couch so high. So, and I had even said to her, I said they didn't need to get this high to get rid of the feeling. Like this is their last high. So we did their treatments when they got sober enough and I was able to get consent from them and stuff like that. And the daughter has been sober for over 10 years, which is incredible. The boyfriend of the daughter was sadly, after I think it was 6 months, he went and ended up using again. And like many people who get off of things and then try them again, his body went into shock and he died. So she is still sober even through her partner dying on her and in her arms. So this really lit a fire inside of me. And I've spent the last basically 15 years studying addiction, studying where it comes from, how to fix it, all of the things. And what I will tell you is addiction isn't the problem. Addiction has been their solution. The problem is the trauma and feelings they don't want to face. So with our treatments trick their brain into thinking it's already gotten the fix. So it minimizes detox symptoms and stuff like that. But the real thing here is that we help them heal. So there's some life coaching and sober coaching and things like that go into this to help them really understand their own traumas so that they can heal the feelings. Because what I see, and the problem I see in even rehab centers, is with that 14 to 18 month, so what it takes is 14 to 18 months for your brain to recover from long-term use of anything. And long-term use can be 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, 20 years, it doesn't matter. But it takes 14 to 18 months for your brain to find a new normal and kind of recover. And in order to do that, you also have to not be using. And this right here is where the biggest problem comes in all sobriety, because you're asking someone to go for an entire 14 to 18 months, which is over a year, suffering through essentially a depression, suffering through feeling all the same feelings they felt before they got sober or before they got high in the first place, before they found the escape. And now we're putting them into a depressed state because their endorphins and everything have crashed so hard that it's going to take months to recover. And now you're saying, okay, so let's deal with your trauma. And that's where the biggest problem is. And this is why people don't make a year. And a lot of people can only make, say, 3 months because they feel good. They feel like they're going to make changes and that's going to change things. And 90 days is a long time. But 90 days is not enough for your brain to recover. And so there you're stuck. And then people will use again because it hurts too much to feel. What we do is we regulate your chemicals in your brain so that your brain doesn't feel that depression, first of all. We don't let you have, for the most part, most of our clients have no detox symptoms because their brain thinks that they're still getting the fix. Minimal detox symptoms is what I tell people. That being said, I also tell people make sure that you have, support around you for the next week or so in case you go into shock, in case any of these things happen. But if I treat someone for their addiction for a year, I'm tricking their brain for an entire year, making them feel almost normal, which allows them to actually start doing the work on themselves. And then our clients are actually able to get sober and stay sober because we keep doing things to make it so that they're feeling good. Now, we have a step down program as we treat. So we're treating at a really high level and we start treating less and less. Can't give you all my trade secrets, but we have this program that works amazing because we are able to get their brain to stay thinking that it's okay. And it teaches it that this is the new okay, which allows them to do so many different things. Like it allows them to heal. It allows them to stay sober for that long period of time. It makes it so they don't need or want to go back. So our program has really changed the way that addiction works in the areas that we have them.
Awesome. Wow. That's a lot of information there. Thank you for sharing that. Something that kind of stuck out to me in the very beginning, you're talking about how you just kind of forgot to smoke in a sense. Yeah. I hear that sometimes. It's like when you're done with something, it's just like part of you so used to doing it, but then it's like this, it's kind of a great feeling in a sense. You just kind of no longer desire it in a sense.
With the laser, yes, there's not a lot of people who will tell you that that's the sensation that they feel when they're giving up drugs or alcohol or any substance, really. Like as a smoker, that was my biggest problem, was all I could think about was the cigarette that I wanted and couldn't have. And I think one of the things that really helped me work through that was, I would distract myself. I would do this, I would do that, but it drives you crazy. And in the knowledge, because of all the studying that I've done, what I found is that your stomach is your second brain, and your stomach actually communicates with your brain and tells you a whole bunch of things. And I'm sure everyone has tried detoxing from sugar at some point in their lives. So even if you've never smoked, you've never drank, you've never done drugs, any of those things, or you've never been addicted, coming off sugar, many of us, because, we hear about how it's an inflammatory and how it's actually really toxic for us and all these things. So we'll try coming off sugar. And when we do that, all we can think about is, the M&Ms that you want to eat, or the chocolate bars that you want, or your ice cream that you have, whatever it is that has that sweet to it. And that's all you can hear when you're trying not to eat it. And that problem right there is the problem we're having. And what it is the bugs in your stomach, as they die because they need or want that to stay alive, they scream bloody murder to your brain saying, you need this, you're going to die if you don't have it. That's the same with any of our addictions. That being said, sugar is the most toxic substance. Your brain will react under a CT, MRI stronger than it will to heroin or cocaine.
Yeah. I mean, those studies are kind of shocking. Like with the rats, it's like they literally go for the cocaine instead of the sugar. Yeah. Part of the reason why we don't see some crazy behavior to get sugar as we do for drugs and everything, because it's so accessible. It's in everything. It's very hard to get away from it.
Yeah. It is in any preserved food. Yeah. That's the crazy part. It is in any preserved food. So if you have, I'm trying to think say even rice-a-roni, you know what I mean? Lipton Sidekicks, any of those packaged foods that don't get me wrong. I fed those to my kids all the time because I only had a certain amount of time and I would feed them. And then all of a sudden I found out all of this and how much sugar was in it. And it was actually a documentary that I watched and I was like, oh my goodness, this fits with what I'm doing. And then I ended up looking and finding the connections, and yeah, sugar is bad and it's everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, convenience sells for sure.
Yeah, it does.
So you kind of talked how addiction can really be caused by trauma and, pain, everything like that. Out of curiosity, what was it for you in a sense? What was the cause of smoking, do you believe?
Let's just go with, I had a rough childhood. My mom was very abusive. And my dad just wasn't really around. So he wasn't even aware of what was happening. And it was, my mom and my dad both smoked. Now, I was a kid in the 80s, so let's just go with that. And in that, I was able to, see my parents smoke, and it was the one thing they told me I wasn't supposed to do. So it was the one thing that I could, even at 16 years old, my mom kicked me out in the middle of a rainstorm, and I'm sitting outside with my middle finger to her smoking my cigarette. So and a lot of us that are smokers, especially women, it is our best friend when everyone else leaves us. It doesn't tell me what to do. It's always there to comfort me. We're emotionally attached to it. So it was the one thing that could give my parents an FU without giving my parents an FU.
Very interesting. What you mentioned there was like that was the one thing I could not do, and that's the thing is we kind of like have this mentality of we tell people they can't do this thing, but then that's like a psychological trick where they actually want it more.
Yep, reverse psychology, right? So you should smoke your brains out, people. But that's also it. Like if you like doing something, and it's funny because I have so many people who come to me and they're like, I want to quit smoking, but I just really like it. And I'm like, okay, so you don't think that an addict comes to me and is like, I want to stop meth, but I just love the way it makes me feel? Like it is the exact same story. So I always say that to people. You're a smoker telling me you love smoking. Yep, so did I, except I knew it was killing me. So it was something I needed to like open my eyes to and be aware of, okay, this is a bad decision. And I mean, also think about this, because my son has ADD. And with his ADD, he has ODD, which is, it is oppositional defiance disorder. So when you tell him no, that is an immediate yes. Within oppositional defiance disorder, they also have this thing where they like to like annoy people. And my son just would like literally, if he knew it was bugging you, he would just keep going and going and going and going. And it would drive you crazy. I can't even tell you. So to this day, I have to work with him in a different way. And he's super, super intelligent. He's great with his money. He listens to me when I tell him, you know, like he'll call me and be like, I want to buy a street bike. Tell me all the reasons I shouldn't. Because he knows I'm going to be reasonable, but I'm never going to tell him what to do, especially my son's 23 years old. So with oppositional defiance disorder, it's really taught me a lot about people because we all have a bit of it in us. The minute you tell someone you can't do something, it's the first thing they want to do. And I mean, I'm the same way. If I had a boyfriend and he was like, you can't do this, my answer would probably be, okay, watch me. So I see him with that same attitude. And what I've started to do is be like, instead, give him, well, I started a long time ago, but he was about 10 and I would be like, okay, so there's two options here. Which one do you want to take? Instead of, no, you can't do the one thing that you want to do. Instead, I'd place two different ones in front of him and let him choose from those. So instead of no, it's here's what you get to choose from, right? So in addiction, it's very similar. So you can stay trying to escape your problems and drinking, and it costing you everything. It doesn't cost you a little bit. It's costing you everything. It costs you time, money, quality, presence, all of the things. So you can choose to stay doing what you're doing, but you've come to me because it's clearly not working for you. So if that's not working for you, perhaps we need to look at a couple of other options. And that's what we talk to them about. So then it's, I'm not telling you can't do something. I'm telling you that what you're doing, you're telling me isn't working for you. So maybe we need to find a new solution. And if you give someone something to do to change that, like change the habit, then they have way better chances at success.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. So if people are suffering from addiction right now, how can they start to become aware of the reasons, right? Because there's always a reason and most of us are not aware of it. Like, how can we uncover that? Is it like a process? How do we start that?
So just starting to become aware, and we just talked about this, I am a spiritual coach, but one of the things I don't really enjoy doing is bringing people into awareness because it's one of the hardest things to do, because looking in the mirror at who you really are, especially when you're being ugly, is the most difficult thing to do, which is why everyone points fingers and blames. So while I'm pointing a finger at you, there are almost four pointing back at me because I'm the problem. And this is why you hear that statement, everything outside of you is a reflection of what's inside of you. And what is meant by that is, for example, say you say something that triggers me. Now, you triggered me, yes, but you didn't do anything wrong because you could have said the exact same thing to someone else and they didn't have the same trauma as me, so it didn't trigger them. And what I mean by that, an example is, if I call you a purple monster, are you offended in any way? Are you triggered at all?
No.
But if your parents had called you an evil purple monster as a child, and I said that to you, you would be so upset with me. You would not want to speak to me. You would not want to have anything to do with me. I would be the worst person in the world. But if you can be aware, you can see that, oh my gosh, this is a me thing. My trauma and the goggles I'm wearing from my trauma are making me angry at this person because they've surfaced my stuff. So coming into awareness is the most challenging thing because you have to be willing to look at your ugliest side. You have to be willing to see that you have an ugly side. And when we point to other people, we keep that side in the dark. And one of the things that I was taught about keeping things in the dark is that shame can only live in the dark. The minute you expose shame to the world and other people go, oh my goodness, I felt that way, or oh my goodness, I've been there, or oh, I've done something similar. Now you're sharing an experience and now the shame is gone. And just as an example, so my daughter was telling us this one time, it was a whole situation, but my son and I were in the house, we were doing something, and my daughter and I started talking about something, and she's like, I have so much shame around something. And I was like, well, we've had so many, I've raised my kids with all of these things for the last 15 years. And so I was like, but you know that shame only lives in the dark. She's like, yeah, but no, I would never tell you guys this one thing that I did. And I was like, can I ask why? And she was like, just because I'm so ashamed of myself. And I was like, but shame lives in the dark. The minute you expose it, even if it's us forgiving you for something that you did, it gives you a chance to forgive yourself. And my son is incredibly protective of myself and her. And so she ends up telling us this whole story after a little bit of convincing. And we started talking about it when she told us. And we both said, did you learn something from it? And she said, I sure did. And I said, then you can't be ashamed of it because it taught you something. And that was the whole reason in the way I live my life. Negative things happen or challenges happen because they're there to teach you something. If you learn from it, you won't repeat that again. And it will teach you something to be better the next time. And when I said, well, did you learn something from it? She's like, yeah, I'll never do it again. And I said, then that was the whole reason you did it. And then about 20 minutes later, she said, holy, I can't believe how different I feel that you guys know. She's like, I was so ashamed of myself. And now knowing I made a mistake and it's okay to make mistakes because I'm human, it just made it okay. And that alone changes things, right? Because if you're ashamed, you're going to lie, you're going to cheat, you're going to steal, you're going to act in ways that are not you. But and that's from hiding who you really are from people. And if you can just own who you really are, own your mistakes, because we all make them. There is not a single perfect human being on this planet. So if you can own your stuff, it will change how you deal with the entire world. So my biggest thing to people is the best way to acknowledge, and it still happens to me. So there's a couple of things, for example, one time I was driving to Arizona, 27 hours from where I live. And on that trip, I thought, oh, I'd love a cigarette. And I was like, holy, I haven't thought that in 5 years. What was going on with me? I realized I was incredibly bored driving down the road 27 hours later. And in all of the things that, happen around us, if you can notice that the moment you want to use any substance at all, you are trying to escape something or you're trying to run from a feeling. So if I have this sensation of I'd like to have a cigarette, or you have the sensation of I need a drink because you had a rough day, you're trying to run away from the feelings that you're having instead of dealing with the feelings that you have.
Absolutely. I like that so much. It's really important to forgive ourselves, as you mentioned, because we do these things in our life, but if we're holding on to it still, not only is it more possible to repeat that behavior, it's we can't move forward in a sense to live our best life. So it's really important to kind of bring that to awareness, forgive ourselves, and learn the lesson, as you mentioned.
Yeah. And the forgiving yourself is the biggest part of it. If you can forgive yourself, others will forgive you, but we are hardest on ourselves. You know, we are the only ones who have ever done anything so horrible. So I have to point fingers? Like it's your fault that I acted like a jerk. Maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, like we all have these things, but it's important to kind of, integrate it in a sense, like because I like that word integration because it's still you. You're just kind of transmuting it, and now
Yes.
you're moving forward a better version of you.
Yeah. And it's so important that we do. And that's the only way to become a better version of you is to stop blaming people. Because if you're always blaming someone, how do you become better? You're never taking responsibility for your own actions.
100%. The
You're
power is within you, but we don't really understand that because we're constantly blaming people or a situation. And I get it. It can be hard in the moment because, these things that influence over you, right? But they don't have control. And as soon
yes.
as we kind of like feel those feelings and move beyond them, that's where we start to create real change in our life.
And you said something there that just like is a major thing for a lot of my addicts, control. So the thing that most of us need to remember about control is the fact that we have none. And the only thing you do have control over is your reaction to the world around you. So how my question to myself when something really challenging is going, the first one is always, what am I trying to run from? And then I start to deal with what it is that I'm trying to run from. It then becomes, what can I learn from this to make me a better person? And who do I want to be on the other side of this situation? Because who I want to be is going to determine how I act through this situation. So do I want to be the psychotic version of myself? Because don't get me wrong, we all have it. I've done so much work. That little psycho is inside. But she doesn't need to come out. That little psycho that's inside is a little child who is trying to protect me. I would never, ever let a 5-year-old drive my car. So why would I let the little 5-year-old who's so broken inside of me drive my life? She's not going to do a good job. She's broken. She's hurt. She's trying to protect me. And that version of me doesn't support who I want to be now. Back then, I felt like I needed to be, that watch me be big because I'm so little. And now I don't need to do any of those things. It's okay that this is the way that it is. It's okay that, life isn't easy. But now I'm the adult who can protect that little girl inside. So some of the things that we work with our clients and my life coaching is IFS, which is internal family systems.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. It's a great process as well
It
because
really
a
is.
lot of these things, as you mentioned, they come from childhood in a sense. Like, and we're not really taught the tools of how to transform them. So we carry around these things and we're walking around like these adult babies in many circumstances.
Literally. Which is so funny because we're sitting here telling our children how to behave, but we're acting out of the same place.
Exactly.
So it's a very interesting process. And I feel like that's why I enjoy bringing people who have already come into awareness. I love guiding them through their own awareness, but to bring someone into the awareness of looking at yourself, like it's such a painful process. And I'm not going to BS anyone on this. That was probably the biggest challenge of my awareness into my consciousness is because now I have to look at who I really am. And ew, when I looked in the mirror at who I really was and how I really acted, I was grossed out by myself. And I'm not referring to like looking in a mirror at my face. I'm referring to looking at a mirror at who I am and how I'm acting. So when someone reflected back to me this, I'm trying not to use swear words here because you know what I mean though? Like this horrible person. When someone reflected it back to me, I'd be like, they're such a horrible person. Well, if I could admit to myself that I have acted in that exact way in my past, that's why I'm triggered by it. And the only thing I can do is choose to be better than I was.
Yeah. In a sense, a mirror kind of reflects our potential that we're not reaching because I feel like we have so much potential in us. And when we feel that feeling, we have two choices. We can either kind of be like, yeah, you're right. I'm never going to reach it. So I may as well just be average. I may as well be mean. I may as well all these things aren't
Sit in the
optimizing
fear,
our
you mean?
lives. Yeah, exactly. Or I can choose to go straight into it and transmute it and cultivate excellence, right?
Feel
That's
the
a choice.
fear. and face it and do it anyways. And that's where the
Exactly.
biggest differences are, right? Like our lives are run by fear. We're so scared of what though? And that's the thing that I always ask myself, like, what is the worst that's going to happen? Like, if I'm going to die in this situation, that's the worst that's going to happen. I probably shouldn't do it. Even then, I've still done crazy things, like the worst case scenario of jumping out of an airplane is I die, and I've done it a few times. You know, bungee jumping, what's the worst case scenario? Well, I could die or I could end up paralyzed. And I've done it anyways. That being said, as I've gotten older and I have realized, you know, I found my peace, I don't need that adrenaline rush anymore. And instead, my adrenaline rushes come from, you know, making decisions inside a business, because I own 4 of them. Making decisions inside a business that are risky. Making decisions in myself that are risky. Making it so that somebody could, I open myself up so that someone could hurt me. That's risky. But I also get to choose how I react to those things. And what I will tell you is when I open myself up to be hurt, and I've been hurt, my heart has always healed. Yes, it's been painful. Yes, I've had moments where it's been excruciating and awful, and then I healed. And I became a stronger person. And when I say stronger, I don't mean I'm like this hard, nasty, don't let anybody in person. In fact, I became stronger in the sense that now I can be more vulnerable and I can expose myself in more ways and allow people to hurt me, because that's my journey.
Yeah. I mean, courage is not the absence of fear. It's having that fear and doing it anyways, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. 100%. So you have this method that you follow a lot called the laser quit method. You want to get into that a little bit further and kind of explain what that is?
Yeah. So laser quit is basically cold laser therapy. And cold laser therapy is, you know what, the LED red light therapy that everyone's talking about now?
Yeah.
Okay, so and that's not new. It's just everyone's talking about it now. It's been around for well over 50 years. And we use that combined with old school stuff, we use LED light combined with low level radiation. And when I say low level, it is not toxic, okay? It is just enough to stimulate the energy meridians within your body to create the outcome that we're looking for. So essentially, my staff and the people who do treatments are instructors for your body to do what it needs to do to recover itself. So we are using ancient Eastern medicine combined with modern Western medicine. And the two coming together create this incredible outcome that if we didn't have the two coming together, we wouldn't have. So I feel like that plays a part in everything we do as well. Like all of these things, I'm not sure if you've noticed, but in life literally, like something comes up and, you know, and I'm not trying to minimize, and I don't know enough, so I probably shouldn't be saying this, but for example, you know, LGBTQ. When it comes to that, there's been so much, you're not allowed to be that and all this stuff, that we've gone from like, you know, disdain to extremism, and we need to find our way back to the middle. And I find that with almost everything we do in life. So when you've been hurt, you know, you go straight to blocking yourself and never letting anyone in, to letting yourself be hurt way too much, and then eventually you find your middle. This is the way that everything works the best in the world, I have found, is that when left and right come together, we find the right solutions. But instead, when we're always butting heads, trying to force one to one side or the other, we all lose. And that's why the laser and laser quit work so well, is because we are using the combination of everything that we need and giving your body the instruction it needs, because it knows better than any doctor. It knows better than your brain. It knows what it needs, and sometimes it just needs instruction to reset itself.
Yeah. Like we forget that bird. I mean, the left and the right, it's still the same wings of the bird, right? Even though that bird has a broken left wing at the moment, it's like essentially integrating it.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like that because it's kind of optimizing biology to make
Yeah.
things easier.
Yes. Your
And
body knows the best, and all you're doing is giving it instruction to fix itself. And it will do that.
because I'm thinking about red light therapy in a sense, and in terms of benefits, it really helps optimize hormones and our transmitters, like all these things. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it kind of makes it so much easier to stop doing something when you're kind of like you're inner resourced in a sense. Like you have enough internal resources to essentially make the process easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you have these treatments, we are able to basically, like I said, trick your brain into thinking it's already gotten the fix. And that right there is the game changer, because when your brain thinks it's got the fix, the rest of your body just goes along with it.
Yeah, I mean, so if you have a clients that are kind of, they're trying to deal with something and maybe they're struggling for a while, like what results they start to see within themselves after they're doing this laser quit method?
So immediately, most of our clients have no cravings, no desire. They don't have that constant nagging that, you need to use, you need to use, you need to use. It literally, your body is the most amazing thing. You have to think about that. Like, yes, we are just a speck in the middle of a rock in the middle of the universe. However, if you think about how amazing this body is, it breathes without you needing to tell it to. Your heart beats, it knows how to detox things you put into your system. Like, it is incredible. The wild part about it is that when you take something that is incredibly toxic to your system, it releases endorphins that are from your reward center. And that part, I think, is about the challenge and about learning from it. I think that that's why our body responds the way that it does.
Yeah, we have this infinite intelligence that we're working with in a sense. And it's about calibrating the energy and the frequency. Like so when we're dealing with these substances of whatever type, it's like it's kind of creating this discoherence in a sense. And we're not really aligned with our true selves. Do you find that?
Yeah, big time. And it's interesting because, like even somebody who, for example, has a glass of wine on a Friday night, it takes your brain 8 days to recover from that one glass of wine. And so then if you're drinking on a Friday and you drink the next Friday, you did not give it time to recover fully, which means you have not spent any time as your best self.
Yeah. Like, I feel like certain things, we're going to make mistakes along the way, right? But I think, progress is essentially about seeing the distance between you do that thing grow longer, and while you're doing whatever it is, like the effect lasts less. Do you find that?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's tolerance is part of addiction for sure. And it's about the levels. Like, that's why you'll end up needing to use more to get the same sensation, right? It's because you're not, your body just starts to develop a tolerance because it just has learned how to release those endorphins. And eventually it'll just kind of stop releasing as high because your body has built a tolerance. And then you have to use more to get that same sensation out. So it's a really interesting, interesting way your body works.
Yeah, I mean, that's partly like the darkest part of it in a sense, because like everything in life starts to darken in a sense, except this one thing that you're doing, you just need that. It's like, it's so difficult to get out of sometimes.
Yeah.
So
it's awful in the sense that like, this is how addiction is so prominent, is because, your body starts to build this tolerance. So you end up using more and more instead of understanding that your body is building this tolerance and like at a certain point, you'll just stop feeling anything from it. But if your body is building this tolerance to it, it's essentially like the universe or God or whatever telling your body that you still need to heal from this. This isn't the solution for you anymore. And it even happens with heroin, methamphetamines, all of the things, right? So if you can learn to heal your trauma, the substance isn't something you need anymore.
Yeah. I think that's part of forgiveness as well, is understanding that we're doing these things to try to kind of deal with these emotions, right? So it's not like we're just this bad person. We're actually trying to use a tool to kind of help our problem. But unfortunately, this tool is two-sided in a sense. We may be getting something out of it, but it's actually taking a lot more from our life than it's giving us.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we didn't know any better. You know, a lot of people start their addiction quite young, and it's because you were never taught coping mechanisms. You were never given solutions. And so instead, you found a solution that worked for you and you just kind of ran with it.
Exactly. I mean, that's how it starts a lot of times.
It does. It
So,
does.
what can people look forward to in terms of sobriety? Like, if they're in a dark place, if they're using some kind of substance, like, what is for them on the other side of that addiction?
You. And I love that because truly, 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 the person that you like, you're hiding even from yourself when you're using. And you may think you know who you are, but anybody that I've helped get sober, whether it's from drugs, alcohol, or whatever it is, anyone that I've helped get sober, the one thing that they tell me is learning who they actually are is probably also one of the most challenging things that they have ever done. You know, who am I without alcohol? Who am I not going out every night? Who am I? Do I still have friends? Do my friends still like me? You know, all of those things become questions. I suggest a lot of the time it's time to start over completely. That means new friends, because the friends that you have, like a lot of the people that I do work with, the biggest problem that I see with them is they go back to the same people, and those same people are like, oh, come on, it's just a drink. You'll be fine. Let's just have some fun. That's not support. That's enabling. And that's because they don't want to deal with their feelings. And it's called the crab effect, actually. And what that is if you have a whole bunch of crabs in a bowl and one starts to get out because he's caught the ledge, there's others underneath grabbing him and pulling him right back in the bowl. So you don't want to be in the crab effect, because the crab effect is taking you from where you could be back down to where you were.
Yeah.
You know, misery loves company is something else they say. And it's true.
Yeah. A lot of times these people, it's not like they're meaning to harm you in a sense, but they don't want to lose you, so they're scared.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Again, coming from a place of fear.
Yeah.
And also, there's the fear you're facing as it is. And then they're going to feed into that story that fits your subconscious. You can't get sober. You shouldn't get sober. And then there's these people being like, it's just a drink. It's not a big deal. They're literally feeding into the story that you've told yourself that you don't know how to be sober.
Yeah. Something you mentioned was really powerful. It's like coming in the truth of yourself. And that is the most important thing, I feel like. The relationship with yourself, that's where it all starts. It's how you relate to the world. It's how you define your decisions, what you do, what you don't do, what you accept, what you won't accept, right? Your values, standards, all these things. And that's the foundation, as you mentioned.
Yeah. For me, it was interesting too, because when people tell me that, they're like, I don't know what I like. I don't know, what to do with myself. I don't know what habits I like or what hobbies I like. Well, I found out what I liked by finding out what I didn't like. Because finding out what you like is great. You know, you do something and you're like, this is fun. But when you do something you really don't like, you that's where you find out, okay, so I really don't like running. Like, I really don't like running. So the opposite of running for me is, okay, well, my coach he's tried giving me cardio and he knows that it's a hard thing for me. So instead he makes sure that the way that I have to lift my weights incorporates getting my heart rate up to a place where I'm also doing cardio. Okay.
Yeah,
So, right. And so if you want to, let's like go with another example, like certain people don't like iPhone. They only like Android, right? By finding out that I don't like iPhone shows me I do like Android. By being broke, I learned I didn't like to not have money. So I worked towards having money. So it's what I don't like shows me what I do like, because I like the opposite of whatever it is I don't like.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, truth conquers at the end of the day. I feel like a lot of us, we don't know who we are because we're kind of like stuck in the matrix in a sense, right?
Yeah,
Like
and stuck in fear. It's all stuck in fear. We don't know what we want because the thing that we do want is so scary to head towards.
It's kind of crazy to think about because we have the fear of failure, but we also have the fear of success.
Isn't it true? Well, but that's exactly, they're the same thing. I'm scared that I'm going to head towards success and fail. I don't want to try. And that's why there's that statement of fear kills more dreams than failure ever will, because this fear of you not being successful stops you from even trying to do it. And I will tell you, I'm the opposite of that. I have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars failing, but you wouldn't believe the things that it has taught me.
Yeah, I really like that. I mean, failure is feedback. Don't be
That's
afraid.
exactly it.
Yeah, I mean, look, you have to look at it as part of the process. It's okay. I mean, sometimes like it really hurts, but I find like, I mean, every single day I fail, and it's just obstacles,
You're
because
failing
obstacles are
forward.
opportunities.
If you
100%.
fail and you learn from it, you're failing forward. And if you
Yeah,
fail forward, you're actually not failing at all. You're winning. This,
yeah.
all failure says to you is what you're doing isn't working. It means you need to try it a different way. It doesn't mean you stop trying. It means what I'm doing right now isn't working. And for me, I've learned it mostly in business, which is probably the place you don't want to learn it. But I've learned it in business, and I'm the person who, someone will come to me and be like, hey, have you tried this? And if I haven't tried it, I'm like, I'm going to try it. It could cost me $50,000, but what I can learn from it is worth the $50,000. Because
I like that.
now I know that that particular thing is not going to work inside my business.
Yeah. Don't change the goal, change the approach.
Yes.
There's so many different ways to the goal, and we're often stuck in this one method. But like, if you just kind of like do what we said, like work on yourself in a sense, and give yourself a space to think. Like, if you actually analyze the situation, give yourself time to process, like your mind will go to work and look for solutions.
It will. If you're looking for problems, you're going to find them. If you're looking for solutions, you're going to find them. So just remember, whatever you're looking for is what you're going to find. And one of the things that I did find is that for me, if I am searching for whatever it is, I definitely found it. And I listened to myself more than I talked to myself. And I have to tell you that when it comes to talking to myself instead of listening, that's a game changer. Because if you think about, and what I mean by this is, for example, you're driving down the road, you almost get into a car accident. How many times does your brain go, oh my God, if I had gotten in this car accident, this is what would have happened. I would have done this and da 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 da. And you play it out. You run down that rabbit hole. And your brain it's your survival mechanism. And it's literally just like going on and on and on and telling you all these awful things. But if you had instead stopped yourself right there and been like, holy, I almost got in an accident. I wasn't in an accident. I am so grateful for the life that I have. All of those things. Suddenly you're talking to yourself more than you are listening to yourself. And the outcome is going to be completely different. Now I'm in gratitude that I'm alive and safe instead of in fear of what had happened if I had gone down that road.
100%. I love that. Like, because success, it contains like a certain amount of wattage you have to hold, right? Because a lot of us, we're not ready for the thing that we want. So we have to kind of like be qualified in a sense about life. Because if you have all the things that you really want right now, you're not going to be able to hold it in the long term. Do you find that?
Yeah, 1,000%. And not just that, but life is testing you. You can't just be handed the life that you want. You need to be worthy of the life that you want. And I'm not saying that we're not worthy. I'm saying that there's a lesson that needs to be learned in order for you to get what you want and to keep what you want.
Yeah. Because we're always worthy, but essentially we still need to grow into that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, step into the person that you need to be to have the things that you want so badly.
I love that. All right, Murray, this has been so awesome. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us and giving all these tools of addiction, transformation, and being able to recover, right? Because as we mentioned, like all these things that we're working on in our lives, it's really to become the greatest versions of ourselves. And we have a lot of things that are holding us back, but there's so much on the other side of this current state. And pain is temporary. And getting the other side of this, that's what it's all about, and living the life that we want and being of service. So I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so if people want to find out about you and your work, where can they go to find it?
You guys can find me on social media at laserquit.therapy, and it's LASERQUIT. You can find me Sober Coach Mare. Those are on Instagram. On the website at laserquittherapy.ca or laserquit.net will redirect you as well.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your insights with us. It's been awesome.
Thank you.
All right.